Alrighty, I have with me today Carolyn Micali, and she's a dietitian, but she's got a super unique job. And I'm thrilled to share with you what she does and how she got that job, how you might be able to get some different ideas about how to envision your dietetic job. And she's going to give us some great specifics. Welcome, Carolyn. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So Carol and I have a really fun story about how we met. We were actually both in a live chat at the virtual Fancy, and we connected in the live chat, and then we connected through LinkedIn and then also through email. So we have never met before, but we've become fast dietitian friends, and in part because she's got some really super interesting information. So Carolyn, can you start off by telling us a little bit about your background as a dietitian and then how you got your current job? And you can tell us what that title is and who you work for.
Sure. Yeah. So like a lot of dietitians, this is not, I didn't originally know that this is what I wanted to do. I got an undergrad degree in psychology and always was interested in food and fitness. But it was actually a personal trainer that I worked with for a short time in college who said, "Have you thought about nutrition?" And I was like, "Oh, you can do that for a job?" Truly, I mean, I credit him with that. So I did decide to go back for a master's degree, the coordinated program at Georgia State University. And that's how I ultimately became a registered dietitian. And when I started out, I knew that I wanted to do counseling, ideally one-on-one counseling for weight management. And because that was what I wanted to do, I had to take a few different paths to get there. So I sort of knit together a few different part-time opportunities. I was working in a private practice doing one-on-one counseling. I was working at a weight loss center. I was working at a boutique fitness studio. And I was also working at a children's hospital in Atlanta. And at the Children's Hospital, I was working as an employee wellness nutritionist. So the Children's Hospital dedicates registered dietitians and personal trainers as resources to the employees, realizing that they probably don't have enough time to take good care of themselves when they're taking care of patients. And that's where I kind of discovered this angle of worksite and corporate wellness. And so we'll fast forward. I moved up to Boston, networked with some people on LinkedIn, and went to a networking event up in Boston before I moved there. Met someone who was leaving her role as the wellness manager for a Worksite Wellness program for a healthcare system in Boston. Landed that job, fortunately, because she was leaving around the time that I moved up there. Did that for a few years, did some more LinkedIn networking to find the opportunity that I have now, which is as a health management consultant for Marsh McLennan Agency. And we are an insurance broker serving companies that are around 100 employees to a few thousand employees.
And you called that a middle market agency.
Yes,
Is that right? Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah. I was holding up my fingers because you had not one dietetic job, not two, you had four jobs that you patched work together. And so when you and I were talking about your current position, there are obviously lots of benefits to it and lots of interesting things about it and how you're serving your community, your public. But tell us what was so awesome about that position that you told me about.
Yeah, well, I previously, when I had these four opportunities, I had to be in four different places. So on any
Exactly.
given day, right? I mean, I was in two of those. I had to remember what day of the week it was and where I was going, and I didn't really quite have the earning potential with those four opportunities as I did when I made the move to kind of the corporate world. And so now, I have a stable salary. I don't have to worry about self-employment and taxes and kind of the implications there. And I also get, a bonus every year, which I had
Exactly.
never received before. And as a dietitian, sometimes it's hard to get ahead, like financially. I feel like I was always just able to scrape by. And finally, I got to a place where, an annual bonus could pad my savings and, and help me have a little bit more of the financial security that I needed. And I joke because when my husband and I met, I was working these 4 jobs, driving a rundown car around Atlanta all over the place. And, now we joked because, I'm by no means, I don't have a luxury car, but I have a very reliable car now.
I love that story.
And
Yeah.
yes, and a stable income. So I'm very, very thankful for that.
That's what I love. I'll repeat it again for everybody, but she's making more money. She gets a bonus and she has that stability. There's one job, solid job. And so tell us a little bit about what your day-to-day work looks like, or how it is that you're providing. Because I know that your position now, you're not actually providing nutrition counseling, or you're not providing any sort of nutrition intervention. So tell us about what that means to be a consultant for a insurance company.
Yeah. So it's a little bit different depending on, what brokerage you work for and maybe where you're located in the country. But in my case, I work with our client companies to come up with strategies and programs to help make their workforce healthier or keep their workforce healthy. And so I help consult with the clients to say, what are your major issues? What are you trying to solve for? In a lot of cases, they want to control costs, right? They want to reduce their medical spend, which is a tall order. But they also want to improve things like productivity or recruitment or retention, or just employee engagement. I think it's becoming more and more popular to offer these types of services because it's the right thing to do, right? And recognizing that employees spend a lot of their day at work or thinking about work or working. So providing those benefits is really important.
I think also with Glassdoor, I think they've helped provide some transparency of what's happening in the workplace. And not that the employers wouldn't be doing that naturally, but I think it's an incentive to make their company more attractive to applicants or people that are already there. So I think that's good. So now you're not doing nutrition. You're providing this service where you're connecting with a service, whether it's a dietitian or maybe a physical therapist or a speech therapist or somebody else, and getting that into the work site. How has your background as a dietitian given you some advantage in your job as a consultant?
Yeah, I think one of the most noticeable things is that how we're trained as dietitians to get to kind of the root of a problem is something I use every day in my work. So really getting analytical and saying, what's the real problem here? And then having to think creatively about solutions. I mean, there's no one size fits all solution for this. No client company is the same. And then, I just having a desire to help people. I first became a dietitian because I really wanted to have a career where I could help people. And I think that having the passion for that allows me to keep going when the job gets busy or when there's a complicated problem to solve. And then another piece of that is really just kind of selling the client on why health should be important to them, health and wellness. So again, I think being able to live it and breathe it personally allows me to turn that passion around and sell a client on it and tell them why it's important.
Yeah, good. I know you and I talked about what your job title is, and then we also talked about this idea of how dietitians can do something similar to you, how they can connect with you to get those opportunities into Worksite Wellness, or how they can connect with a broker, all this being done on LinkedIn perhaps, and getting into those positions with Worksite Wellness. And so can you describe, like, if someone were to go on to LinkedIn, what would they start searching for? Like, what would be their first step in trying to get to do Worksite Wellness at a company, a small company, a large company, or working with a small broker or a larger size broker? What would be their first thing that they would search for?
Yeah, I would start by searching for wellness consultant. I think that's typically the most common job title. Mine is health management consultant, but it's the same thing. Those terms are synonymous. And looking at the companies that we know employ people like myself. So I work for Marsh McLennan Agency. but there are others like Gallagher or Willis Towers Watson, who's about to merge with Aon or already merged with Aon, Hub International, and then simply doing a Google search for insurance brokers in your local area. So that's a great kind of quick way to find people like me at various insurance brokers.
Oh, that's right. We talked about that too, about if you are moving to a new town, for example, you're not really sure who to connect with, going and finding these brokers and these agencies in your town first to get in there, and you can provide a bunch of different services. Like you and I were talking about how you can provide a lunch and learn, and you can provide be retained for, like, for example, 3 hours a week at someone's company office to provide nutrition counseling one-on-one. And so starting local, and then once you've got that experience behind you or on your resume or on your LinkedIn profile, then you can be more attractive to some of the larger companies and can get you into, or excuse me, larger brokers, larger agencies, like you mentioned, who then can get you into the bigger, maybe tech companies, like maybe go in and work with Apple or Salesforce or somebody like that on the higher level. And so if a dietitian were to provide like a package of services for Worksite Wellness, is there anything else, or like a dollar amount that you would recommend that they advertise their services for, or anything else you want to add to that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think this is going to be based a little bit on geography and your qualifications. So, if you have qualifications in addition to being a registered dietitian, you may be able to charge more. I would say generally where I am in the Southeast, charging $200 for a lunch and learn, for a 1 hour lunch and learn, would be very appropriate. And then for one-on-one counseling, if you are working with the client on a contract for something like X number of hours per week, I think anywhere from $85 to $100 an hour is appropriate. And again, once you've got more clients under your belt and you've got some results to report on, I think that just continues to improve your earning potential and opportunities for working with larger companies. But I think there's a lot of opportunity with these smaller companies because the smaller companies don't have the budgets that the big companies do. They need creative solutions for helping to improve the health of their workforce. And there's plenty of big fish in the pond that these small employers can't afford. So what better to do than link them up with a local dietitian who lives in the community? They know what's available in terms of food, groceries, everything really, and being that resource for people one-on-one.
Oh, I love that. That's so super helpful. Oh, Caroline, this was just so fantastic. This was, I feel so serendipitous for us to meet and for you to be able to share this unique job that you have, and can share then how someone can get into the work that you're doing or get into the field and actually provide the nutrition intervention, the care, the worksite wellness care with these companies using a broker or a consultant and getting in there. This is super, super helpful. And so if people have questions, can they just connect with you on LinkedIn, or can you?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So we'll make sure we include your contact information. Anything else you want to add?
I would just say that I would not have ever imagined that this is where I would end up as a dietitian. And there are definitely days that I miss the one-on-one counseling, of course. But the opportunity that it has provided me and the skills that I have learned from this, I'll always be a dietitian. I feel like I'll have that forever, and that's always there for me. But this has just been a totally new avenue for me. And if anybody's interested in this side of it, I'd be happy to talk to them.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Caroline. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, Stacey.